when he says Iran can't shoot down our planes, what does he think has happened when they shoot down our planes? Does he get the connection between those? Dozens of American troops have been wounded and some killed thanks to Iranian missile and drone attacks on what appear to have been essentially unprotected U.S. bases in the region, again, in easy reach of Iran's missiles and drones. The United States, bizarrely, started this war on its own terms and on its own timeline without first preparing its own bases for the inevitable Iranian retaliation with missiles and drones. So much so that U.S. military commanders are scrambling to find hotels and office space for U.S. troops to sleep in the region, because they can't sleep at their U.S. military bases because the bases aren't safe. Even though, again, this is a war that we started on our own terms and on our own timeline. Nevertheless, someone forgot to harden the targets at all the places where tens of thousands of U.S. military personnel are stationed, again, within easy and obvious reach of Iran's weapons. I mean, it's one thing to think about the commander-in-chief maybe not being all there, right? Rambling, swearing, jumbled thoughts, changing deadlines, no explanation for what the war is for, no seeming understanding of what's happening in the war. But then beyond that, beyond his apparent incapacity to explain, let alone manage what's happening, on top of that, there's what he's simultaneously doing to the U.S. military, which has a little whiff of what he's done to the rabies lab at the CDC. I mean, the Fox News weekend host Trump put in charge at the Defense Department just chose to fire the Army Chief of Staff, the top general in the Army, right in the middle of this war that we are not winning. He also fired the head of the Army Training Command and the Army's top chaplain for some reason. This comes after we lost the three-star general who was the head of strategy for the Joint Chiefs, which came a couple of weeks after we lost the head of U.S. Southern Command. That came just days before we lost the Navy Chief of Staff and the head of U.S. Special Operations Command and the top U.S. Air Force commander. That came after we lost the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency and the head of the Navy SEALs, the Naval Special Warfare Command. That came after we lost the Chief of Staff of the Air Force and the aforementioned head of U.S. Cyber Command and the director of the National Security Agency. That came after we lost the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and the commandant of the Coast Guard and the vice chief of staff of the Air Force and the Army's top military lawyer and the Air Force's top military lawyer and. The strategic and even cognitive incoherence of the president and the defense secretary, those top civilian officials in charge of the military, those are worrying things, right? Less worrying, thankfully, when we can count on a professional, excellent, non-political, meritocratic military, right? If